Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good, good. It's me
Hi.
and
Are
you.
are we live?
Yes, we are.
Oh, hi everybody.
Hi. It's the first day podcast on a Sunday.
Yeah,
It's the second time we've done a Sunday in the last 2 weeks.
I like it.
You like Sunday?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Um, for a couple reasons. One, I have more. Is it delayed?
No.
Oh, okay.
Stop.
Um,
Just be yourself.
because I have more time,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not as rushed, and the setup is nice because now I'll be able to you have a really good thing because you're all set up so you can just like do podcasts whenever you want. I've got to like set up the whole thing and then take the whole thing down. And so now it's nice that I get to like take it down and then I don't have to worry about it for the week kind of thing.
Awesome.
So,
Isn't that
yeah.
great?
Yeah.
It's a great
So
way to live.
it's worked out. Nice. Yeah.
Preparation is key.
Yeah.
Preparation without
There's a quote there somewhere.
Is there something about preparation and
I don't know. There is
preparation.
H.
Oh. I'm getting a colonoscopy this Friday, though. So.
You are. Are you excited?
It's my first one.
Talk about preparation.
Yeah, I'm excited. Looking forward to it. I hope.
Watch what you say.
Danielle is about to join us.
Ooh, yay! That's great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the colonoscopy. It's gonna be a good time. Hopefully, I don't die and I live.
Okay,
and
that's what. Come on.
I don't want to die. I want to live. I very much want to live.
Right.
So I know they know what they're doing. It's a routine procedure. So
yes, they do.
But I am on Suboxone, so they have to take extra precautions because I can't have opioids. So they got to use propofol, and that requires an anesthesiologist. But it'll be at the University of Michigan, a fine hospital, one of the finest hospitals in the world. So it'll be a quick, painless process, and then we'll know where my intestines stand and what's going on with them.
That's so exciting. Yeah,
it's important to know what's going on in there.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Yeah.
And then we can get on a colonoscopy schedule and we can start scheduling them together.
Yeah, well, you already had yours last November, so.
Yeah, so it's close enough. So we'd be able to, once we're living together, then we could be like, oh, it's colonoscopy time.
Yay! That sounds like fun. I would love to have couples colonoscopies.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have those available.
Maybe. I don't know. You might have to pay extra. I don't know.
I don't want to pay extra for that. I mean, it's already expensive as it is.
Oh, see?
I'm just kidding. It's not. So.
Free here.
It's free. Yeah, it's free for me too.
Oh, that's great.
I have insurance. I'm a lucky American. We're rare. We're very rare. Very rare people in America to have insurance that doesn't hamper us with costs. So
yeah, that's nice.
Anyway, this is a first day podcast. It's a Sunday, and me and Leanne are going to be talking with Danielle Salinger. She will be with us any moment now as she is taking care of some biz. And then when that biz is done, she'll pop in here with us, and we'll have a grand old talk about mental health. We'll see where she's at. You know, what's going on? How's checking in with Danielle? She's always honest and genuine and forthright, so we're going to get the scoop from her and hopefully something to take away.
I'm sure there will be. There'll be a lot to take away. And
are you?
Yeah, I'm very confident. Yes.
Okay.
And if you're listening to this on your podcast, you can stop it and you can go to episode 13 and you can listen to the first time that she came on here. It was back in June. So I listened to it last night. There were a lot of really good things that we can take away from that as well. So if you're listening to it, stop it, go back to episode 13. You're going to have to scroll a bit and then Or you could probably search for First Day Pod Danielle Salinger because her name's in the title. So anyway, you can do that and then hop on back here for episode 51 and then listen to the second.
Yay!
Yeah.
Well, that sounds fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I remember she talked about, a lot of serious stuff, losing a child and the pain of that, but also being honest about it and openly discussing it, and suicide, and having a prevention plan in place if you have someone in your life who's very depressed and you know that they'll be prone to these depressive bouts. It's important to have a whole plan ready to go. And that was really impressive. That's what I remember the most about our conversation. Me too.
I had never heard of that before. Never even thought about it. But I almost feel like it's one of those things that not even if you know someone that's really depressed, it's probably just something good just to have, and something to talk about, especially if you have kids, something just to, or I mean, maybe not like kids, but like teenagers. It's probably a really good idea to have all those things in place just in case.
That's a good call, Leanne. You're a smart lady. That's why you're a co-host of the show. You're my smart lady.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. She has been through so much, and then she's got a really cool way of looking at the world, and with her sense of humor, and she's very. What I like is how open she is about everything. Like it doesn't matter what you talk to her about. She's very open and will just tell you exactly how she feels about it. And she's really open with her kids, which is really cool.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Speaking of the devil, she's not the devil though. As far as we know. Are you the devil?
Some people might disagree with you there.
Hey, Danielle.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's a challenging day.
Yeah, I bet. Every day's an adventure. So
yes.
Just live it.
Definitely is.
Live that adventure.
As best I can.
That's it.
I totally didn't check the notes, and last time we did this, I don't think we were live. I think we just did it where we just recorded it.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah, this is new.
Yeah, this is really, really cool. I'm really glad that I took a shower this morning.
Yeah,
so that worked out great. Although I had to check at the last minute, and my shirt had stuff. The baby and I made muffins today, so I had muffin mix all over. So I had to change real quick before I hopped on.
Ew, well, look, Leanne made this all just for you. Look, it's got all your information right there.
This
all
is very cool.
You don't have to say anything.
You guys are so high tech now. This is amazing.
Yeah,
it's funny that she's the one that does it too. She's not the high tech one of us, but she makes these great graphics for each show, and I'm really, really surprised, but very grateful. Very grateful
Me too.
that she does that.
You guys have come a long way.
Yes.
It's
well, actually,
quite a bit.
I'm glad you're on the show because we're going to talk about this with you, and we'll talk about whatever we want to talk about. But we've also been talking about maybe changing the show, and I wonder what you would think of that. Like, you don't have to listen to every episode or catch every show that we do, but we've been thinking of tinkering, and maybe Leanne would kind of step aside maybe, and I would just do the show by myself. What do you think of these things? What are your thoughts as someone who's been on the show and has at least, absorbed a few of these?
Hold on. Yes. I'm going to interject and just tell you that there is zero, I will not take offense to anything that you're about to say.
That's good. Yes, that's good.
Because she'll be like, no, keep her on. But I'll message you later, Mike.
No way. I think it depends on the reasoning of why you guys would want to do that and what direction you would want to take things in. I can't say how many I'm through. So the only time I really leave my house these days is if I am headed to work, which I do one day a week. And so it usually takes me maybe one or two trips, depending on traffic, to get through an episode of your guys'. So I'm slowly getting through and trying to catch up and stuff. And then there are some days that I just want to rock out to some music and blast it really loud because I can, and I can't do that at home. Yes. So I think that I am maybe close to halfway through on the episodes for you guys. Cool. So yeah. considering I'm not really listening to any other episodes or any other podcasts at all. So, that's pretty good. But I
Yay!
do, I've always liked the back and forth and the different perspectives that you guys bring. But if
Mhm.
it's one of those things where, Leanne, you're really busy and stuff and you need to step away,
No,
I
that's
would
not
never.
really what it is. We're actually not quite sure what it is.
What? Yes, we are. There's no secrets here. We talk. Look, we
Please,
talked. Yeah,
please go ahead.
Leanne's focus is usually the food addiction stuff. That's like that's
Ah,
what she talks about the most on the show. I do that as well. That's also an issue for me. But I
mhm.
also talk about my substance use disorder and my old opioid addiction that I also dealt with. And sometimes truth is, this really started with a rating. Somebody reviewed us and gave us 1 star, and she said that we were corny and cheesy as hell. And that's what started the conversation, to be perfectly honest with you. And then we
Mhm.
started.
Lame,
So then I know
lame.
I don't really succumb to that stuff, but I was
Yeah,
surprised by like the negativity of it. It was like, I gave the spot a chance, but it was blatantly blaming me, not Leanne. Like, I was cheesy and corny, and like, if you need addiction help, seek it elsewhere. And I was like, wow, I feel like you didn't give us a fair chance. But that's when we started having this kind of, because we want to make sure that we're not living a lie, or like we're not fooling ourselves. If it's lame and
yeah.
cheesy and we're not aware of it, then I'm willing to consider other points of view.
Mhm.
Well, but here's the thing. What's wrong with cheesy?
Right.
Well, clearly,
Who
you know me.
knows?
Yeah, I mean that's what I
and
do. That's
and
what
you
Leanne
know
does.
and this isn't like when I think of you guys, I don't think of cheesy, but even if that is something that somebody gets out of it, what's wrong with that? I mean,
Mhm.
I could be cheesy about it and say cheese is fabulous and wonderful, and you know lots of people love cheese,
Yeah.
macaroni and cheese pizza, all that stuff. But no, there are different ways of reaching people. And the way you guys are certainly reaching people, it's good as it is. It also doesn't have to be the same as what other people are doing. I
Mhm.
think that the draw of First Day Pod is that you guys are unapologetically yourselves,
Mhm.
the good parts and the flaws and everything in between, because that's how everybody is. And so I certainly wouldn't want you guys to change anything based off of that. I mean, we've we've
Thank you.
all had really bad critiques throughout our lives, haven't we?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
you take the ones that mean well, and maybe you change something that you already wanted to change. But then there are going to be others that aren't anybody who means well, but are just somebody who sometimes is lashing out,
Right.
or just is a sourpuss. Justin
Wah
gets
wah.
horrible reviews,
Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
horrible
yeah,
reviews.
yeah. I've
And
heard him
some of
talk
the
about that.
stuff that people say, it's like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Um, Somebody got upset because he said stolen bases rather than steals. Come on, really? And gave a low review because of
Mhm.
that. Don't,
Jesus.
yeah,
And it wasn't so much like we got the review and so now we have to do something.
yeah,
It was just we got it, it kind of sparked it. Then it was like Mike's also going, he's going to school for
yeah,
counseling. And so i- this is a good place for him to be able to really explore it and explore it in his own way. When another part of it then is, and this is totally okay, but another part of it is he's not able to be his self as much because he's a very sweet man. And
Oh yeah.
well, it's true.
No,
He's
we
very,
mentioned this. Yeah.
yeah, very sweet man, and his girl's by his side, and so he doesn't want to like say certain things or be his full-on self, which is
mm,
really it's I'm
I can be
torn.
vulgar. I can be vulgar.
And I'm torn because of course you want your partner to be able to be himself, but then at the same time I'm like, I don't really want to see that side of him. So
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot that part of it. I'm
it's a
glad you
big
mentioned
point.
it. Was she's more Leanne is who she is. She's kind of she's funny. She's very funny, but she's not
yeah.
crass or vulgar. Kind of like maybe me and you could be, Danielle, if we wanted to get down and dirty and talk. I mean, I've talked to you. I know how you and Justin operate. You guys are
Yeah.
funny. but you're also you guys will say whatever you want to say, and you don't give a shit, and I like that. And Leanne's cool with that too. She's not trying to limit anybody, but that was another crux of this conversation was what I like to say, what I feel, regardless of the implications. But I also respect her because she's not that way. So we have a slightly different dynamic, is all, and I'm just trying to respect that.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. It's different approaches that you guys have, different backgrounds that you guys have, and finding a way to have that together, but still be respectful of each other and your individuality.
Yeah.
So one thought is that we'll do the show that he does it, so he can do his thing. And then occasionally he'll have me come on and just be like, disclaimer, we're going to clean it up for the show a little bit, guys.
I wanted to do this with her from the beginning. I'm the one who started the idea. I'm like, I really like her voice. I think Leanne has a very calming, sweet voice that I like to listen to. And I was like, we should do a podcast together because then we could explore things.
And this actually started before we started dating again. That was the impetus to us dating. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first thing I said it was one of the first things I broached her on to try to spur a conversation, which eventually led to this more meaningful and deeper conversation about us, getting together again. So, yeah.
Oh, this podcast brought you guys together.
It did.
Mike, how many podcasts do you have going on right now?
Not as many as you think. I mean, I do
842.
I'm just doing a lot of baseball podcasts because it's spring training, it's preseason time. But otherwise, it's just the baseball, this pod, and the movie pod. That's basically the main three I do.
So I'm just saying, couldn't you have a separate pod where you could be your crass self and delve into other things, but still keep First Day Pod and the focus that you guys had together, and just give you an opportunity that way to delve into different sides of yourself and different conversations you want to have?
Huh.
You're right.
All right, I'm going to close the curtain behind me. It's bothering me.
I don't see why not. You're right. That's a good point. That's a good middle ground.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Danielle.
Problem solved. We're moving on. Great. Well, look, I just wanted to, you're honest and you're going to tell us the truth. So we wanted to jump on that for a minute, but I wanted to see how you're doing. So how have you been doing? We haven't talked to you since last June. Before you came on, Leanne was saying that she went back and listened to the episode you were on last night, right, Leanne? And
it was really, really good. But there was one of the things was that you were like, I'm going to get back into my blog. I can't wait to start writing.
That's not happened.
Yeah, it hasn't. But you have other things that you've brought on instead. So tell us what you've been up to, what you've been doing, and then we can get into all of the rest. But what's going on?
And I don't remember if I said this the last time, but it's funny because I used to always say that I really wished I could be a stay-at-home mom, that I'd love to be able to, just stay at home, be able to have my projects and things that I enjoy doing, take care of the household, be with the kids, be around them and stuff. And then all of this happened and I thought, oh my God, I'm not good at this. I would not make a good stay-at-home mom. I'm barely keeping it together. And Justin had to point out to me, well, this is not like you being a stay-at-home mom. You're trying to work a full-time job and also take care of the kids full-time. Everybody's home and everybody's in the house all the time. So there's more to clean at all times. It's just, with the pandemic, everything's a lot more. And, for us, we're still in the same place that we were when we first did a podcast together, which is that we're really limiting our interactions. We're really not going outside of our household, and, just being super cautious. And so all of it just throws a monkey in the wrench for doing things.
Yeah.
I work, I take care of the kids, we do nighttime routine, and then I jump back on and work some more to make up for kind of what I missed throughout the day.
Wow.
So I haven't done a very good job of doing other things, except for in the last 3 weeks, I guess you could say. Just because I was trying to be funny and harass my husband, Justin Mason, on Twitter, I decided to sign up for his big fantasy baseball competition, just to be a jerk and just be funny. And then I decided to turn it into a real thing, because, he's tried before to talk me into getting into fantasy baseball, but I always thought it just takes too much time. I could do fantasy football. That's easy enough, but this takes too much time. The fantasy football is fun for us to do together. It started out as something for me to, a hobby of his that I could join in on, and we'd have kind of that doing together. So I decided to take an approach with fantasy baseball, but doing it from a new person point of view and how to approach it as somebody who doesn't know or understand any of it at all. But see, even with this, I get these big ideas, and I just don't seem to be able. I struggle with follow through.
Yep.
So the idea
Welcome
had
to
been,
the world.
Yeah, I know. That's like, you're human.
The idea had been that we would do a podcast every night for 2 weeks leading up to the start of this competition. And I would write a blog post about what I was learning every night also and post that. Okay, that was much too much for me to try and accomplish.
A hell of an endeavor. But you did some of it. I mean, you did the podcast.
So I did the podcast and I wrote 2 blog posts. So I at least followed through with the podcast. We didn't do the last one, but that wasn't on us. The person we were supposed to have wasn't able to join us, and we were exhausted because Justin did Podapalooza again, trying to raise money for Mental Health America. And so we both decided that he raised over $8,000, I believe.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
good job.
Really, really fantastic. So it's interesting to have a goal and then, try and be kind to myself when I wasn't able to reach it. To, realize I kind of put an unattainable goal on myself, given, everything that's going on. And I got my second vaccine shot and I got really sick from it.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've heard that.
I made it through the podcast episodes, and I have a super sensitive system. So we were expecting that might happen. But I made it through podcast episodes, and that was all I could do. I didn't even do any studying. I did no prep. I did nothing for the competition that I was getting myself into, but I did the podcast. And so I at least have to think, okay, well, that's a win. I did part of it. It's okay if I didn't get to all of it. I at least did a portion of it. And probably for me, what was the most uncomfortable portion I was able to do, because, sitting down to talk with people who are much, much more knowledgeable than you on a subject can be nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to sit there quietly. I don't want to just the entire time. I want to be able to engage and ask questions, but it's really hard to ask questions of something you have no idea what it is.
Right.
Sometimes you just gotta go,
That's for some of it that is what we did. Thankfully we had people on who really were helpful and engaging with us, including Michael. Michael, you were our first. That was awesome. That was really a great way of kicking it off.
I thought, it was very engaging. You weren't sitting there on your ass, but then again, maybe you feel slightly more comfortable because we've talked before on podcasts and stuff. I don't know, but either way, it was a positive experience, at least from my point of view. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So
you got us back to basics. She took us back to a place that some of us veterans, like she's saying, these more knowledgeable people hadn't really been to because they've moved so far beyond the first time they ever played the game or had the experience that it takes you back to the beginning. And that's why I was really grateful that you started doing that, because that's what I told other people, to check out the pod, because it takes you back to a time when you knew nothing. And and this goes universal for all things, like any endeavor you don't know anything about and you do it for the first time, it's a good base to start at. So that's why I was really I wasn't even thinking about that when I did it. I just came on and then I thought about it afterwards, and it was much more useful than I thought it would be, to be honest. So
it's been really cool because we've had a number of people say the same thing, that it was really great for them to kind of take it back to that beginning point and then kind of take a different look at things.
Yes.
So, and I think it is good for lots of different areas in our lives where we think okay, I'm having a rough time with this. Well, maybe if we take it back and stuff and start and build a better foundation and stuff, that might be, helpful to us. It was something that Justin kept on saying to me, because the draft has been going on this week. I'm way over my head. I have no idea. I have some idea what I'm doing, but I'm still way over my head. And he kept saying to me, well, you just need to take a look at, where your needs are, and then, find somebody who fits that need. I said, I don't even know how to find that. And I thought that is so applicable to my life, even sometimes, that there are holes somewhere, but I'm not always able to identify them. And so then how do I figure out how to, fit something in there? So, you know, trying to find time for my own passions and things that I want is definitely a hole that I have and something that I'm trying to figure out um, how to fix that. So I'm always going to hope that I can get back to my blogging, but we'll see.
You're like Leanne in that respect. Then Leanne always tries to aim high, and if she doesn't quite get there, she's still got some of it, and she's happy with that, right?
I am. I never used to be. I used to aim high, and then I would be like, unless I hit 100%, then I was like, it was
no
awful.
exceptions.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But now it's just like, if I don't, if I aim low enough, if I aim like too low, then there's no motivation for me to do it. So then it's like, it's just not going to get done. Right.
Sure.
Now I've gotten to the point that if I just like aim super high and I do certain steps to get to it, then I've accomplished more than had I just sat there thinking about it or planning for it or whatever, and it gets done. So yeah, it's just that whole like acceptance and being, like you said, being aware of what you need is the hardest part, I think, in the beginning. But you know that you want, like you were talking about writing through the back when we first had you on.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you at least did a couple, you got two blog posts.
3 if we count the first joke one that I did.
Squeeze another one in there.
So and I'm still coming up with ideas of things that I want to write. It's just, and also I have to take my expectation down in terms of how I write it. I have this intention that I want to write this really amazing, meaningful, something that touches people that they identify with. And I really need to take that down and just, I just need to write.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gotta be perfect.
Yes. But it's hard. I get so self-conscious about, things that I do. I sometimes say, and even with other things that I write, I don't care. I don't care what people think. Whatever. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be me. I don't care what people think. But the fact of the matter is, I do, and I wish that I didn't so much, but I do care what people think, and I want to be liked, and I want to be well thought of, and so I hold myself back with fears and all those things. So I somehow have to figure out a way, and maybe that's, one of the needs that I can't quite see. I figure out a way of letting that go to the side and doing things anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband still likes you. There's a good news. Thanks, Justin. Very nice.
Of course he does. He'd better. I do a whole lot for that guy.
Damn right you do. But it goes back to the review we were talking about earlier. Is I don't really care in the end. I'm going to do what I want to do. But I'm trying to do this podcast. It means a lot more than the other pods. It does to me, because it's about mental health and addiction and things that are really at the root of all the things we do in this life. That's why it's much more important than a goddamn fantasy baseball podcast. I mean, it's fun. I love doing that, but it's not important at all. It's just fun. Yeah. So if people didn't like it, I'd be like, well, okay, that's how it is. But it just had a little more gravitas to it.
Sure.
That's why I took it, I guess, a little more than I would have liked to. We wanted to be a place where people could reach out to us, as opposed to be like, oh, this is not a place to go to. That's the exact opposite of what this podcast is supposed to be. So I guess in a way, frankly, it hurt. It did. It was hurtful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I know that, I have a hard time with criticisms. I try to take them well, but that's not always easy. And especially when something, that seems unnecessarily harsh. I know everybody likes to give their opinions and stuff, but it's not exactly constructive criticism there. So, it's hard to put yourself out there, and especially when you're doing something that is real and meaningful. And not to say that, fantasy baseball, I've certainly talked to a lot of people that's been, meaningful for them and helpful for them when they had.
I don't want to dismiss the relationships and stuff. Yes.
It's
an outlet.
But it certainly isn't the same as doing something like this and the kind of subject matter that you're
Mhm.
delving into. And maybe that's also why, it's hard with the stuff that I write because I am being very blunt and very
Mm.
personal. Some of the pieces that I've written, I've included stuff that is extremely embarrassing to me.
Mm.
But I put it out there in hopes that, maybe somebody else who's dealing with the same thing, that it'll be helpful to them.
Yes, that's
Um,
why we do this. That's the point.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yes.
so that we can put it out there and somebody else can go, oh, me too, I didn't realize anybody else did these things. I mean, I think with anything, it's hard. There's no black and white. There's
Yeah.
always kind of a little bit of gray. So people talk about like, oh, labels are bad, but you know what, sometimes labels are good, because when I started researching some of the things that I deal with my depression and anxiety, and I would see, oh, that's called this, and so holy
Right.
cow, there's enough
Oh.
people that there's a name for it. Awesome. This is not
Right.
just some weird thing I do. This is an actual, kind of part of what it is that I deal with. And so that can be, at least for me, it's a bit of a relief
It provides
to see
understanding
something
for you
like
as
that.
like a common
Yes.
bond of something that maybe you thought you were all alone in, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. When
That's
you think,
interesting. I hadn't thought about labels from that perspective.
and so that's why, sometimes doing that, sometimes identifying something more clearly, I think can have a positive impact. So
Mhm.
for me at
Wow.
least. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, we're talking with Danielle Salinger here. She's been on the show once before. This is her second time ever. It seems like you've
Okay.
been on more than that for some reason. I don't know why, but this is only your second appearance, and
Yeah.
it's a great experience because she's going to tell us the truth. And one of the things I wanted to ask you the most about was
Yes.
this identity thing with being a parent and being a part of a family. Like you said, you're taking care of your kids, you're being a housewife, a mom at home, raising the kids full time. You also have your job, and then you try to squeeze in some of this side stuff as an outlet. But do you feel like identity is an issue where you start to sit around and say, "Boy, what is my identity here?" Or what am I beyond the things I do? Because I talked to a friend of mine who's a father. I just want to give this context that he
Yeah.
has really struggled recently over the last couple of years. He feels like he's lost. He doesn't know who he is in a sense. And, he's around our age too, and he's got everything taken care of. The family's in good shape, and they make enough money to survive, and everything's going well there. But his sense of purpose and identity is shaken. So I'm just wondering, because people aren't always honest about the stuff when they have children and stuff. They're like, oh,
No.
everything's hunky-dory 24/7. But we know
No.
you're not like that. We know you're, you're.
Yeah, no, it's not. We moved a year ago, and when we did, we were unpacking a lot of stuff. The previous move that we had done, we were downsizing into a much smaller place, so a lot of my stuff had to be packed away and stored in the garage. And we figured when we hopefully get to somewhere bigger, I'll be able to take some of that stuff out.
Hmm.
So this new place, I was able to do that, and as I did, I took out a bunch of hats. Now, I used to wear hats all the time because I'd be going out and going and doing things, and I love different hats, wear a fedora or
Oh
a
boy,
cute little
Leanne's jealous.
cowboy cap. I mean, I have a huge collection of hats,
That's
and
awesome.
I cannot remember the last time I wore one, because
Hmm.
I don't, I'm not wearing a hat out to the playground or
Mhm.
out to I don't really do a whole lot
You coulda wore
where
one today.
I
Yeah, yes. I would have loved to have seen that. You should see Leanne's collection in her closet. She's got a ton of hats.
I love
oh,
it.
they're awesome. Listen, I'm lucky I got a shower today. And even with me getting a shower today, it was a shower with a 2-year-old, which is a challenge in and of itself. So, the finding a hat to also put on maybe would have helped a little bit. But it's hard. And especially, I love that Justin's listening, and he's gonna love that I say this. But Justin has a passion project that he's kind of, has
Mhm.
gone from being a hobby to being a job that actually provides income in our household. And so it takes priority.
Mm.
And so it's hard to have things that are just me or just for me or that feed into my identity. When I saw the hats, I kind of felt like, oh, I've lost so much of who I was back then. I've drifted so far away from that. And I don't know. I'm at a point where I don't know that I necessarily want to go back to where that was, but I want to feel like I have some part of me that I go, this is just me. This is who I am. This is how I want to be. This is what fulfills me. And I haven't really found that right now. Because, yeah, a lot is, just taking care of the things that need to be taken care of. And so I need to find a way of turning some of my wants into prioritizing them as to being needs. Because that's what I fail to do most of the time. It's, okay, the kids need to be fed. They, I wouldn't even say need to be bathed because I'm terrible about that. And we kind of do it when we have a moment and stuff, or, take the kid in the shower when I do. Thank God the 10-year-old can shower herself, although even that's questionable. But, there's a lot of those things. And I have a hard time prioritizing my own stuff as being a need. So got to find a way of doing that, doing a better job of that.
When you say that so before you were saying that you wanted to be like writing was always your thing, that you wanted to do that. And that's a passion of yours. I don't watch a lot that you do on Twitter only because I still don't. Mike doesn't understand why I don't get Twitter.
She doesn't understand it. Yeah, I don't understand why she doesn't understand it.
Hey, I didn't get Twitter at first either. It took me a long time. Like I saw something the other day about when I first joined Twitter, and it's holy cow! I didn't realize I had joined it that long ago because I really only started using it maybe 4 years ago.
You're pretty good at it. You're pretty good at it. You're funny too. You know how to do zingers. Okay. You know how to use GIFs. You can do it all.
Oh, I love GIFs.
You're a 5-tool Twitter user, no doubt about it.
Thank you. If I thought that people that I interact with on Twitter would do a GIF off, like a dance off, but with GIFs with me, I would totally start one.
Ooh.
I love GIFs. Yeah. They're so much fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I can do that with you.
I know you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I still don't understand. Anyway, I'll get there. It's a hang up, or maybe it's just a block of mine because I don't want to. Yeah, maybe I just don't want to. So, but the things that I do see, you are writing, you are getting your message across. So in little spurts, you're doing it a little bit. Do you like is it the getting the message out to people, or is it the actual physical writing, like by hand, or is it the putting the grammar and all that stuff that I'm awful with together? Or like what part of the writing is it that is the big draw for you?
I think getting the message out. I think being able to talk and engage with other people about the things that I think about or the particular point of view that I have, and sometimes I'll have an idea for something that I want to write about, but I know that I don't have the time, but I at least want to kind of put the idea out there of what I've been thinking about. I did this the other day where I had tweeted about, the need to normalize guys who don't always want to have sex, who aren't, always thinking about or constantly wanting sex, and women who don't need to be talked into sex. And it's something that I've wanted to write about for a while, but I haven't been able to. So I just kind of put a little tweet out there of just, something, kind of a little thought for people to ponder a little bit, because there are those stereotypes that, once you get married, that's it.
Right.
The guy's always hounding after his wife about wanting sex, and, the wife is withholding and stuff. And
isn't that true?
Just not the case for all relationships or all marriages.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's just such a common stereotype that you see people joking around about and stuff, and
it perpetuates it and makes it seem like it's real to people. I assume when me and Leanne get married, it's over.
Yeah, of course.
Well, and there's the jokes like, let's see, there was the thing about the person who put $1 in the jar for every time before sex, before marriage that they had sex. So they put the $1 in, and then once they got married, take $1 out, and you'll never empty the jar.
Oh,
so, and that's just, don't get me wrong. With kids, does it get more complicated? Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta get more creative. That's all.
Yeah, Yeah, you got it. Well, there's creative, and then there's, sometimes you are just tired and you just want to lay down and just do nothing,
Mhm.
not move, not anything.
Mhm.
You got to wait until they're asleep, and not just they kind of went to sleep, but really dead asleep. Or, there's just, it does create more challenges,
Yeah.
having kids. And also you just, energy levels, and you get older and stuff, and those things are difficult. But the thing is, for some people it doesn't change those things at all.
Mhm.
Where, they're still just as eager as, before marriage or at any other time in their
Mhm.
20s, those sorts of things. There's just, and it all always depends on the person. You could have a woman who has a higher sex drive, and, a guy who has a lower sex drive and stuff. And so there's lots of different things that you can come up against. And yeah, marriage, you know, I, I'm sure for some people it does end up being a challenge. I just question that it's marriage that causes those challenges.
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of bogus myths out there
Yes.
about all these things. They've been perpetuated by decades and decades of
Mhm.
jokes and people talking out of their ass. But the more these things sit with us, even if they're not true, they start to permeate our culture. That's the problem.
Mhm.
And I'm 40 years old. I've never been married, and I think probably some of the stuff that has permeated our culture like that, like these, like, oh God, I don't want to be stuck with somebody who I'm just have to have sex with the rest of my life. It sounds there's a lot of misery attached to it, to be frank with you. And
Yeah.
you see your own, depending on how your own parents, gave you a tool or a symbol of how relationships could go. My parents did not give me a very good one, and I know yours didn't either, Danielle. So
Yeah.
put all those things together. And that's what you get from me right now, the 40-year-old guy who's still not married. Even I love Leanne very much, but I've talked to her frankly about, like, marriage sounds great because I do. I love her dearly, but I get nervous about it. I'm like, is this because of all these things, all these negative connotations with it?
Here's the thing. I
Mhm.
don't think marriage is any different. Nothing is different between Justin and I than before we got married.
Right.
We
See,
still
that's
fight
what you
the
want to
same.
hear.
Yeah,
That's what you
we
want to
still
hear.
fight the same. Everything else is the same. Nothing has changed. And I'll tell you, if we had never gotten married and still did all the things that we've done, we'd still have the same issues that we have now, which we do. We have plenty of issues.
Thank
You
you.
know, we have issues that have nothing to do with the kids. We have issues about how much time he puts into all of the work that he does. You know, Justin and I spend probably 2 to 3 hours together, really meaningfully together, 2 to 3 hours a week.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, because, otherwise he's out in the office and working and trying to get things done. Okay, my husband just says he has no issues. I'll be talking to him and pointing those out later. Um, but even for as much as, like, we joke with each other and people know that it's joking online and stuff, we still have you know serious things that we're trying to work on in our relationship that need to get better. And I don't think that marriage is the cause of any of that stuff.
Mhm.
So I would never say that. And sure, adding children into the mix, like I said, provides its own set of challenges. But at the same time, it provides its own set of rewards also. So I don't think that's any different than any other endeavor that somebody takes on. If you decided that you wanted to go and climb Everest, it's not a piece of cake, any of that. It's a
Right.
huge undertaking. Um, Maybe a little bit more life and death than having children, but very minimally different. Very minimally different. So, but even that has its own challenges and rewards and stuff. And so I don't see it any different in that aspect than anything else. But it's funny because with the whole idea of, oh, okay, you get married and the sex drops off, the idea of that being perpetuated, there's also the idea that, well, if a woman is too interested in sex and too sexual, then she's not the marrying type.
Mm.
There's so many ways in which it degrades women. You know, women are degraded for having too much of a sex drive, too much of an interest in sex. And so they're not the marrying type. And yet when you do marry them and then they're not interested in sex, well, they're frigid. And then it's their own fault when their partner strays and goes looking at somebody. Like, everything is just done as a way of bringing the woman down in some way. And so I think it's interesting how that then continues on in the way we view things.
Yes.
You know, I also think that for some people, they get married early, and some people stop their sexual education at a young age. You know, they think, oh, I know how to do this. I'm doing all right with it. And there's no need to improve or discover new things.
Or it never happened in the first place.
Yes,
There's
yes.
a lot.
Yeah, there is. I've said many times that, you know, I would be willing to bet that for the people who say, well, my partner is not interested in sex very much or very often, that if you could maybe communicate, see if they're enjoying it, see if there's ways of improving, because sometimes that comes from, it's just not that enjoyable. So I think that if it was, more partners would see them as having a higher sex drive or higher interest.
Yeah.
I have no science backing this up. This is just from my own talking with people and you know, girlfriends and guy friends and stuff, and that's what I've seen.
Right. Well, that's a lot of experience. You've been around the block, even if it's not scientific. I'm taking a science class, a sex class right now, human sexuality in my master's program. And it's just reminding me of a lot of things that sometimes go over people's heads because they never were taught them in the first place. You know, sex education is not always universal in this country. Just as a base course for middle schools or high schools, in public schools, it's more likely. But there's a lot of private schools where they don't even have to do any of that shit. And people just miss the boat. And all they have is their own experiences. And the problem with your own experiences is it can make you confident and cocky. It could also make you terrified that you're really clueless. It can have so many variable outcomes. Yeah. And that's, if you get married with somebody and you don't trust the relationship you have sexually, it could cause a lot of problems of, you know, out of wedlock and cheating and all the shit that goes with the affairs. And those are things that happen because I would think there's a lack of a physical connection, or it fades away. And sometimes it does fade away. I mean, right, Danielle? Isn't it? I'm not saying it's what happens with you or what happened with us because we're all perfect, but there could come a time where, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of American relationships there seems to be more of a condoning of, hey, well, you know, that person's going to cheat, but they still love me. Would you ever roll something like that? I'm not trying to give Justin a hall pass here or anything. I'm just curious about these things. Like, cause what if that is the case? Like, what if somebody just wants to have sex with someone else, but they still truly love the person with this? Do you think that's a realistic approach, or is that just bullshit?
Does this have anything to do with the border being closed?
Yes, exactly. You know, it's officially been over a year since we've seen each other, and God, it's getting tough. I gotta tell you.
You know, Justin and I have joked around that, you know, well, if you get a hall pass, awesome. I get a hall pass too, and he's like, absolutely not. Nobody's getting any hall passes. There would be no hall pass for anybody. You know, Justin doesn't even have time for a hall pass, I don't think. So I'm not too worried about that. You know what? I am certainly not one to speak on this because I am not polyamorous, nor do I know a lot of people who are, and I don't, you know.
Neither do I.
So that's my caveat. But I understand the aspect of, for individuals who, you know, don't want to be in a monogamous relationship and who find satisfaction in having different partners that meet different needs. I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's what everybody is happy with and consenting to do. If there are individuals who are in a committed, somewhat monogamous relationship, I would say, in this sort of case, where they're deciding, okay, we're staying together and we're staying committed in our relationship, but we are both free to engage in physical relationships outside of this one relationship. If that's what both parties agree to and are happy with and are comfortable with, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Um, for me, it's the matter of everybody involved agreeing and being comfortable, not being coerced or being pressured because
Sure.
they, their partner wants to do this and they don't want to lose them. So they're agreeing to it, even though it makes them feel bad. That's not. It's enthusiastic. As with anything with sex, you need to have enthusiastic consent for something,
Mhm.
not just, sure, I guess. You know, although I will say, look, sometimes I have given that sort of consent, but it was really late and I was
Ah,
tired.
there it
So,
is.
but
There it
for the most
is.
part, enthusiastic consent, then I think it's fine for people to, choose what their relationship should look like and how it should go.
I think another little piece of that, not that like we're giving any sort of like real advice on this, but um, the communication afterward should be huge. That's the part. It's not the, well, you agreed to it. Like, and now you're having like these weird feelings because now I'm like spending more time with her. Like you said, and don't you remember that conversation? That I think is probably where these kinds of things happen because they'll get into. I had a girlfriend that was in a relationship like this, and she was like, I'm okay because I work a lot and it's fine and we're okay with it until it happened. So she agreed to it and everything was fine until it happened. And then emotionally, it became too much. But she was
Sure.
like, he's right. I agreed. I'm like, so what? We agreed it. Like, how many people agree to go to university and then they quit because they don't like it anymore? Like, you can change your mind.
And see, this is the same thing as anything with sex.
Mm-hmm.
It is good to get enthusiastic consent
Mm-hmm.
before you do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with somebody the other day about this, that, how they were taught that you don't want to do anything that'll talk the woman out of moving forward, with intimacy. And so, the checking in, so many people have an idea that checking in and looking for consent, can be awkward and, throw cold water on the process and stop everything. No, there are great ways of checking in and asking for consent. So it seems to me that in the situation with your friend, it's a lot like sex. Enthusiastic consent beforehand, checking in during, and it's okay at any time for either partner to go, you know what? I'm not feeling comfortable now. I don't want to keep going like this. We need
Right.
to stop and let's, check in again, talk about it, and come up with something new.
Right.
Yeah, that smells fishy to me. That smells fishy to me because, like, not what you're saying. Those people are trying to say that, oh, it's going to ruin the moment. No. If the desire's already there, you could say almost anything and it's still going to happen. If they want you, they're going to want you. So you could say, hey, you're cool with this, right? They're like, oh, absolutely, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It can be kind of
Good point.
combined in with a little bit of dirty talk or a little bit of,
Sure.
do you like that?
Oh, that's
Tell
a
me
good
what you
move. Nice.
want.
Ah.
I'm going to, or I want to do this. Is this what you want also? There's so many ways of doing it and keeping things in the moment. I
Yeah.
think because people don't like to talk about sex very often, so they don't get to hear a lot of examples of this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, well, my mom especially, my mom, when I was younger, said, look, when you're ready to have sex, you'll know. I did not. I had no idea. I just
Not good
went, well,
advice.
everybody else is kind of doing it now, so I feel okay with it. I guess maybe this means that I'm ready.
That's what
No.
happened, huh?
I just, and I was not emotionally ready to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
My first time was very uncomfortable. I felt and I don't just mean physically, I mean like where we were and just the setting. It was
Mm.
horrible. It was really, really horrible. Um, and I didn't know, I felt uncomfortable saying anything to my boyfriend. Well, if I was going to have sex with him, I shouldn't have been uncomfortable saying anything to him. I should have been able to go, hey, I know we both thought this was going to happen tonight, but this is not how I imagined it. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. I should have felt comfortable enough to say
But
but I
you
didn't.
were okay.
So I was self-conscious. I didn't want him to be upset. I didn't want him to be, I put his feelings ahead of my own.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
that tells me that I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature enough to be able to and comfortable enough to be able to voice my feelings.
Yeah, I was just
And if
going to
I
ask you, how is someone supposed to know that? So that's interesting.
and so this is the thing, and if I wasn't able to voice that to him, how could I voice to him, hey, that doesn't feel great. Maybe if you tried doing this instead, this would be more enjoyable for me. Or I
Mhm.
like it when you do this. I don't like it when you do that.
Mhm.
I already was worried about his ego and his feelings. So I wasn't even going to be able to do that in order to express what would make the actual experience even better for me. And so, what I have talked with my daughter about is that it's not an age and it's not a certain time. It's when you are comfortable enough that you know your own body and you're able to communicate with your partner, whoever it is that you choose it to be, that you feel comfortable enough to say yes and no, and I like this and I don't like this. Then maybe you can explore thinking that you're ready to engage in that sort of relationship.
That's great advice.
And I wish that somebody had been more specific about that with me because there was a lot of stuff that I just didn't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
I God, I swear I'm so rare. I was a rare breed.
Hmm.
I actually told my girlfriend that we should wait. And I'm not kidding. I was 16 and we waited like 3 more months after she was like she might have been feeling the same you were. She might have felt pressured. She had also had sex before, so she was not a virgin. I don't know who's to say, but actually I said that. I'm not kidding. I'm like, let's wait. I was kind of nervous about it, I guess, and I didn't want to. I don't know. A lot of things get built up too, where maybe there's no
Yeah.
perfect moment either, and I don't want. That's the other extreme of what you're talking about, going the other direction. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it certainly has to be comfortable for you at the very least.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be perfect. But it needs to be something that you can both enjoy, even if it's just having a shared experience together, kind of
Yeah.
enjoy. Not that necessarily the act itself has to be, completely enjoyable because there's a lot of sex is complicated. Um,
It is. But you're getting good feedback from this. Rebecca says, I love that you talked to your daughter about that. I wish my mom would have prepared me on some type of level besides use a condom, quote
Mm.
unquote. Yeah, that's not great. I mean, it's
you
not
know,
terrible, but I mean, at least that's a good thing. Use a condom. So that's a start, but right.
but that's what my parents and even our daughter is starting to get into where they're just easing into sex education, but we're very unhappy with the what they've chosen to go with because I don't think it prepares a person. And so this is where a lot of people talk about sex and, well, how do you get good at it? Well, I wouldn't necessarily say doing it a lot gets you any better. I could do something over and over again, but if I don't really know how to do it well in the beginning, how am
Mhm.
I, necessarily improving? Yeah, there's a lot of education out there that's really good, but sex education, what most people get is just in school, and it's, hey, here's what sex is, here's how babies are made, don't get an STD,
Yes, it's
Mhm.
about
and here's
scaring you more than
Right.
anything.
yeah, absolutely. And it really, I think it creates a negative foundation about sex.
Mhm.
So we are trying in our household to kind of add on to the information that is already being given. Just to make sure that things are, and I've told my daughter, you may not like some of the things that I think you need to know about or that I want to talk to you about. And if you don't want to talk to me about it, that's okay, but at least please let me give you some resources so that I know that you're going to some good websites
Mhm.
to, learn about some of these things so that I can direct you in the right way. Um, so
That's awesome.
hopefully she's willing to do that. But there's just not a lot out there when you're younger. And then once somebody, how many people do you know that aren't looking to go into some sort of field regarding sex? But how many people in their 20s do you know that are going, you know what? I've been reading this great book on sex because I want to be a better lover. Just and especially, I mean, and maybe this is perpetuating a stereotype, but I'm only going off of my own experiences. for the people that do, I know many more girls that do that than guys that do that.
Yeah, they're talking conquest. They really are. I mean, that's what it was. Oh yeah, we did. I did her. Yeah, like shit like that. Like we did this, we did that. They didn't talk about how good things were in particular, or they might, but like it's only from their point of view. That's how I remember it in my 20s. Everybody's just talking that way. There's no educational discussion whatsoever, which you just blew my mind with that thought. Actually, it's pretty crazy.
It's interesting, like I said, sex is complicated for me because I was sexually abused as a child. How I viewed sex and how I approached sex just got really mucked up as I got older and, started to become sexually active. My first boyfriend, I don't think ever even noticed or cared whatsoever if it was enjoyable for me or not. Like if I was being satisfied. I don't think he ever noticed. But my second boyfriend noticed and cared on the opposite end of the spectrum. So where he was very pressuring about it. Did you? Was that good? Did you? Like, oh God.
Chill out, man.
Yeah, and it really made things uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made assumptions about myself where because the first boyfriend didn't really care, second boyfriend kind of freaked me out. And now looking back, I kind of know, okay, this is what was going on. But at the time, I was only, I was 17, I think. So it's not like I had a lot of experience.
Sure.
And so because nothing happened with the first boyfriend and nothing happened with the second boyfriend, I thought, oh, maybe because of what happened to me when I was younger, I'm just not able to do that. Right. And so I just assumed that I wasn't able to have an orgasm. And so then I just never tried again. And see, if I had had some better education, I would have known, oh, no, that's not the case. It's, especially when you're young, it's a little harder, mental aspects, physiology. And I could have really saved myself a lot of years of uncomfortableness and pain if I had known that was a lot more normal.
You must have felt all alone too.
Yeah, and it's not something I wanted to talk to people about.
Right. It's like you said, people in their 20s aren't going to be having these conversations. You're not going to have it when you're 17. This arrogance of people in their 20s who are having sex, or if they're singles and they're living the life in the fast lane, is really ridiculous. Now that you've kind of opened my mind to that. Like, what a joke. The people in their 20s are a joke. They really are.
Most of the time, people are bragging. There's a lot of bravado. Even, with women, there's, some of that kind of conversation.
Of course there is. Yeah, the college life and the post-college life, that's what's happening.
And I remember being at a bridal shower and everybody was doing a little, truth or dare kind of stuff during the bridal shower. And the bride had mentioned that her soon-to-be husband didn't know that when they finished having sex, he'd go off to take a shower and she would finish things for herself.
Oh, Jesus. Soon-to-be husband? What a
nightmare. My God. And at the time, because I was young, at that time, I was probably 19. And people didn't really, at least in my circle, have a lot of discussions about this sort of thing. And so I thought, okay, well, I guess that must be a normal thing.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm.
That's why shows like when we were younger, or I assume like Loveline back in, people would call those shows all night long asking serious questions to Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla, and there was comedy mixed in, but there was really serious questions too because people were desperate for knowledge, and the internet was still newer, so you didn't have like all this information at your fingertips that you could Google. So I think you're right about that. It's a really smart comment on your part, and I just can't believe that to this day the female orgasm is still a confusing topic for not only men, but women too in this country. It's so disappointing. It really, there's so many misnomers and a bunch of crap out there that just confuses everybody. It's a bummer.
Yeah. I'm sure that there, even for me, okay, like the different ways that a woman can achieve an orgasm, for the majority of women, it's through clitoral stimulation. Even knowing that, looking back at the sexual relationships that I had, not very many of them ever whatsoever tried to do anything there. at all. And so when
Ugh.
I really started educating myself more about sex and you know, the physiology for women and even the mental stuff, foreplay, all these things, when I started really looking into things and I kind of realized, oh, okay, here's why this has been an issue for me because this has never been done at all. So no
Yeah.
wonder, because there's an automatic assumption of, oh, it's me. It's got to just be me.
Right.
And while in some ways it was, because if I had known better, I would have been able to communicate with my partners better and direct them better. Hey, here's what I need. But a lot of it is that, I don't think guys are ever told that sort of thing. And some guys discover it and figure it out, and some guys don't at all.
Right. That goes back to sex ed.
Yeah.
So some guys, I mean, I'm not trying to dismiss the blame on them, but some of them just never knew. I don't know. It's like there's a lot of, if you had access to pornography and you could see things on TV, that was probably more of a teaching tool for some dudes than it was for anything they ever got through a sex ed class or because like you said, two 16-year-olds having sex for the first time might not even tell the partner about these things. There's so many gaps, tons of gaps all over the place. So I commend you for this. This is, I didn't know we'd end up talking about this, but this has been
neither did I. Sorry.
No, it's great because this is what you want to talk about too. Like when you're blogging and stuff, this is some of the stuff you want to focus on, right?
Well,
that was the whole point of this.
Because I think that a satisfying and a healthy sex life is an important part of a healthy relationship.
Yes.
So, and having a satisfying and healthy sex life, that doesn't mean like, oh, we're able to have wild sex all the time or sweet loving sex, all the time. It's just a matter of both partners feeling satisfied, whether that's, just from the being together and having the intimacy together, whether that's from achieving an orgasm, whatever it is for those individuals, I think that's important. And I think that there are huge roadblocks for couples when it comes to sex that could, be addressed if people felt more comfortable about doing so and knew where to go in order to do that. Porn is a terrible place for anybody to learn about sex, and yet, so many people do learn through that. I'll tell you, I'm going to be a little crass here, and I apologize, but in porn, those guys touch a woman's clit about as much as my old boyfriends touched mine, and it doesn't get anywhere, and it doesn't do anything. So it's all very male centric.
Yes.
And
Yes,
depending on what you're going for, a lot of guys in their 20s and plenty of women, it's just about having sex and not necessarily the quality. But if you're really interested in, pleasing your partner in achieving, better intimacy and stuff, I think that there are things that could be done to improve that.
it's understanding overall.
Yeah, for women, a lot is a mental arousal and stuff. And so a lot of that comes from before you even hit the bedroom, or even just in, how you touch your partner, and not in a sexual way, but just in how you touch your partner. And even if it's not necessarily leading to sex, it's, improving and deepening intimacy, or just the way that you speak to your partner and what you speak to your partner about.
Yes.
For, sometimes for me, really good foreplay is when, I'm cracking jokes and Justin's laughing and we're just having that moment together. And it's creating this, sense of, oh, I'm with the person who really gets me. That right there can be foreplay and arousing. Yeah. So, I wish this stuff was talked about more. Obviously.
Absolutely. I wonder if you go to work once a week in the car taking notes. Good job, Justin. Yeah, I wonder if you did something along the lines of doing like a voice recording that does the voice to text, and you just did it in the car, that you just like kind of talked about the things that you want to talk about, and then when you get you'll have all the text, and then sure, some of the words you might have to like change so it actually makes sense. But that might be a really good start, because I find like you're really you've got so much to give that like if you just talk it out, it might be easier than trying to like you don't have the 2 hours to sit down to do a blog post, but
Yeah.
you do have half an hour to get like, a good thing out
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think at least that would give me kind of a structure, and then I
Mhm.
could add in as I need. I think
Mhm.
another thing that I have to do is I have to be comfortable that I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna have a blog post that completely wraps things up. Here's,
No.
an idea, here's what my thoughts are, and here's the conclusion. I think so often I feel like I need to write something that has that kind of purpose and some sort of conclusion at the end. And I need to be more comfortable of doing just some sort of free free throw, just thoughts, just letting
What
Yeah.
them
if what if you call it, instead of calling it a blog, why don't you just call it like Danielle's diary or something? So it's just excerpts of things that you're thinking of. And then people go into it not expecting a, fully whatever EPA style or whatever that all that garbage is. Why don't you just have it that it's just like a diary? It's just your
Yeah,
journal.
yeah, that could
And
fit
then
with
if it
what I do.
if it becomes bigger and it becomes something that you could start writing articles on or you start doing all that, then that's what it could grow to. And you could take even some of those, you know, entries. But I mean, if I had the choice of reading a book that was full of your entries, like journal entries, like a biography kind of thing, as opposed to listening or reading a full book that you put in that was like step for step of what to do and and everything was like crisp and clear, I'd pick the journal. I'd want to read the diary, you know?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting idea that might help me kind of at least because I even keep thinking that I need to just do something on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Have, I'm really terrible at having something that I do on a regular basis of having any sort of structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with structure. But I've been thinking that if I really got into kind of creating a pattern for myself, that it maybe then would be easier. And so maybe again, if I don't have this unachievable idea, but make something, smaller, bite
Manageable.
size,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So basically, this makes me think of my daughter really wanted to cook this dinner, and so I agreed. I said, okay, you come up with what you want to do and I'll help you and I'll make it happen. So she came up with a 10-course French dinner that she wanted to do.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Now, we did it. We pulled it off.
Wow.
And it was amazing. Now, some of the courses were things like we had a frozen grapes course. It was some sort of palate cleanser. So that was easy,
Yeah. I could have
um,
even done that. But
see, another course was some Madeleines that we had bought from the store. So okay, again, easy. But we made like a bouillabaisse. We made escargot. Okay, it was obnoxious.
Wow.
It was
wow.
great and it was fun. Um,
Justin
but
says it was amazing.
my daughter's interest in it waned as the day went on of prepping everything and cooking everything. And then by the time the dinner came, she was just done and didn't want to do anymore. And so I explained to her, listen, it was great that you wanted to try this, but next time let's be more reasonable and make it smaller, like maybe a 3-course meal,
Mhm.
not 10,
Right.
maybe an appetizer, a main, and a dessert, a little bit more reasonable. And she's like, yeah, okay, you're right. So I think I need to look at my blog as, maybe start off with just a bunch of
Yeah.
amuse bouches,
Mhm.
just small little bite-sized things,
Yes.
maybe an appetizer or two throwing in,
Yes.
and then I can lead up to, doing some other stuff.
Yes.
And, when I have time and I have something that I want to say in a longer fashion, I can do that. But at the very least, I'm putting something out there that's mine and that's a part of me.
Yes.
And I think that's a great idea.
I love it. I love
Yay!
it.
Look at
Leanne's
us
really good at
helping
that
each
stuff.
other. Yeah.
Leanne's great at
Yay.
workshopping stuff. But she has to have another mind to work off of. She can't work alone. So that's why.
Yeah, I do. I like working with other people because you get 3 minds out of 2. So it's
Yeah.
so cool.
The whole thing about perfectionism and trying to make sure the blog post is so just nice and organized, but it's also very thought provoking, and people will be like, "Wow, I'm taking a lot from that." I know the feeling. I understand not wanting to make it unless it's going to be just right.
Yeah.
And
But
that
you know what
can
happens?
be exhausting as well.
Yeah.
But this is what happens all the time. That, like, let's just say Instagram posts. You spend all this time doing these ones that are going to look great, and the wording is going to be perfect, and everything is going to be great, and then nobody cares. And then one day you're just like, oh my gosh, here's a picture of like this thing that inspired me. I liked it. I'm just going to throw it up there. I don't care. Nobody's going to like it, but I just want it up there. And then everybody loves it. So it's going to be the same thing. Like, you're not going to please everybody regardless of how good it is. So just get it out there. You said it still hit me. And I listened to it again last night and I was like, man, yeah, that's where I realized it. When you just were talking about how you had depressive episodes, and that was what when you were a kid, you used to say that it was, I had like a dark cloud over me, or it was light. And I told you in that episode, while I was listening to you say that, here I was 39 years old, and I was like, oh, okay, so I've had depressive episodes, because that's exactly what that was. So then when I had my nervous breakdown when I was like 36 or 37 or whatever, and it came out of the blue because I had never had any kind of sadness in my life, you made me realize, no, you did. You just called it clouds, but it was actually you were going through issues. So just these little things can really change somebody's life. And it's, you're not getting it out there because it's not perfect, but you didn't mean for that story on a podcast to be perfect. You just got it out because you needed to say it. And it put everything together for me. It was huge for me. And even going forward, when I would think back to most recent things that were like my dark cloud, I still think that way. Then I'm like, oh, that's why I was so tired, because I came out of that and it was actual depression. But I worked through it just saying, nope, that was a dark cloud. And I was like, no, Danielle said that was my depressive. So it literally, they're not even just little tidbits that people will be like, oh, interesting, and then move on. They need to hear it so then they can change their life.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's easy. Okay. I'm trying really hard to make sure that my daughter doesn't grow up like me. So, I give her little tidbits of things like she can't be afraid to fail. She has to go ahead and do things anyways and not be afraid to fail, because she's going to fail. And that's okay. That's just a part of things. And so sometimes, I am so afraid of failing that I just build things up to avoid trying and putting something out there and doing something. So, I am getting better at recognizing it, but a lot of times I allow the process to get in the way of the product. Okay, I need to have everything just so. I need to not be too tired. I need to have a couple hours of being left alone. I need to make sure the house is clean so that I don't have that on my mind. Yep. I need to make sure everything's prepped for tomorrow. I need to write an outline of what it is that I want to write. I need to be really focused. I need to make sure this is my voice and it sounds authentic. Is it getting a good I build and build and build, because it's easier to do that and go, oh, I just couldn't do it, than it is to go, oh, I did it and it fucking sucked.
Right.
It was terrible.
Right. Yep. It's productive procrastination. I just came up with that this morning in my mastermind. We were talking about, like, how did your week go? What did you accomplish? Blah, blah, blah. A week ago, I learned about the dot journaling. That's not what it's called. It's called something. Anyway.
Bullet journaling.
That's what it is. So I was getting my head where I watched the YouTube videos. I found the one that I was going to buy. I was going to go and get it. And then I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then I'll have all of these sheets and then I'll be able to do all these things. So then I sent it to like the people that are in my mastermind. I was like, guys, you really should look at this. And as soon as I sent it, I was like, I'm doing this, so then I won't do the thing. So I was like, no, I'm not doing a bullet journal. I'm not buying it. I am writing down the 3 things that I will accomplish tomorrow. And then the next day, I will accomplish the 3 things. And I accomplished more this week than I have probably all year in the business and in the things that I've been doing because I wasn't doing that. I'm notorious. Mike knows. I'm like, ooh, I have another list. Oh, I'll put it on a list. Oh, I'll do the thing. Oh, I'll plan. It's just
Yep.
productive procrastination. It makes us feel good,
Oh,
but it's doing nothing.
and it does. It makes me feel so good
It
to have
does.
the list and do that.
Oh, it's
There are even
amazing.
times where I tell Justin, I'm feeling so overwhelmed. I'm feeling so anxious about things.
Mhm.
And so I will go and do something that isn't necessarily pulling off of the list that is weighing down on me, but it's something that I can do and finish and feel accomplished about.
Mhm.
And at least feeling like I was somewhat productive in that way makes me feel better. But there's still the pile behind me that I have to deal with.
Right.
Um, and so, that to me is a little bit of that kind of productive procrastination. If I would just tackle the looming pile behind me, it
Mhm.
wouldn't be putting so much pressure on me. But I'm instead doing small little things that I can accomplish quickly, but that aren't really vital.
Mhm. And that's one of the things too that I found like super, super helpful is because I have like these big things that you want to do. You're never going to find the time to do it. Never. It's going to be on your list for years because you can't find 10 hours to do that thing. But if you can break it down into 20-minute tasks, half an hour tasks, to like as simple as like this podcast, just like doing this background thing, that instead of being I have to do that this whole thing to put on one podcast, that's a task. So then when I have 15 minutes, I can go in and I can do that thing and check that off, and it gets me one step closer to having that podcast episode done.
Yeah.
And that breaking all of that down, and that's why I think just this like verbal to text is going to be huge because it's going to be that one step that you can do. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. Now all I have to do is just edit that text. Okay, I
Yeah.
can do that. Oh, and now I just have to put that into my blog post. Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes manageable.
Yeah. The little bite-sized pieces. That's
Huge.
even a thing that with my daughter. Kids' rooms are ridiculous. It looks like a bomb exploded in them. And I know it's overwhelming to me. So
Mhm.
how do I tell a 10-year-old, hey, go in there and clean the whole thing? It's just
Mhm.
as overwhelming to her.
Mhm.
Um, so I try to do the same thing, break it down into smaller pieces. Hey, pick up all the socks. Start there.
Mhm.
Let's get all the socks picked up and into the laundry,
Yes.
or folded up and put away.
Yeah.
When you then pick up all the stuffed animals. Let's
Yep.
take it one little piece at a time. And as you do that, the room gets cleaner and you're able to see things better. And then you get a better idea of what needs to happen next and where
Yes.
you go from there. So I need to take that sort of approach.
Yes.
Look at
And
that.
I have to go back super quick. When you said I'm trying everything so then my daughter doesn't turn out like me, I hope, I hope and pray that she turns out like you. I hope she doesn't have to go through all of the things that you went through. So yes, trying to help her get to where you are now quicker, that's amazing. But absolutely, I hope that your kids turn out like you guys, cuz and it's not just blowing smoke, because I could have let that comment just go, because I'm usually not good at going back to the comments because I don't remember them. But that was one that I really do hope. You're a wonderful woman. And yeah, I get that you don't like want her to have to go through everything that you've gone through. And so you can teach her, you know,
Yeah. I
but
just, I want her to be less anxious.
mhm,
I want her to be less fearful. I want her to, both of my girls,
mhm,
to feel confident and comfortable in going after things. I let my anxieties and fears really hold me back from a lot of stuff.
mm,
And even now, my anxiety, it makes it really hard to do things. I'm glad, sort of, I will say half and half maybe, that I'm doing this little venture of the fantasy baseball stuff.
Mhm.
But quite honestly, it has really added into my anxiety, and that's been hard. And it's hard because that's just the way I am. I get really anxious over, things where, I've gotten a lot of advice of just have fun with it. It's not that big of a deal. And I wish that my brain worked that way, but it doesn't, because I have a tendency to overthink and get super anxious. And then I drive myself wild of, oh my God, I must be driving my league mates crazy because I'm taking so long to do this pick, but I'm just not sure of what I should do. And it's like all my bits of my personality just turn into this tornado inside of it. So
Yeah. Well,
I just really want them to not do that stuff.
There's a lot of things I could say there, but you get, my brother said this on our show like a month ago. We give our thoughts fuel. Our thoughts fuel our anxieties and stuff. So your brain is not wired that way. It may be that way now, but it could be changed if you really wanted to change, Danielle. I do believe it's possible. Not that you don't want to change.
Sure.
It's just, it does take time, and it would take energy and reconditioning, and maybe part of you that's funny, or maybe a part that you like about yourself is also kind of connected to that anxiety. So in a way, it almost is like a part of you, and you don't want to lose it in a sense. And I'm not saying that's a conscious thing. That could be subconscious. This is total armchair psychologist stuff here. But
sure.
I just, as someone who understands what you are going through as well, and me and Leanne have fed our own thoughts in our own realities, the self-fulfilling prophecy thing. We've all heard
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's our stories that we're telling ourselves, and that we almost say it in autopilot. Like we're not even realizing that we're saying it.
I haven't changed at all. I mean, I still have things that I would like to change. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you to change. I'm just saying,
we're all the same.
I should talk about myself. Like I'm not changed. I haven't changed in certain ways, and I wish I would, but I say this is how I am, and I just let that go, and that's my fault. I take responsibility for that. So.
Yeah, it's hard to find that balance between, okay, this is just who I am and a part of the quirkiness that is me, and be able to go, okay, you know what, this is not a helpful part of me and really needs to be changed or addressed.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure that out. I joke around sometimes that years ago I had my tonsils removed. And I'm a mutant, and one of my tonsils grew back, but it didn't grow back normally. And so it's very sensitive. And so I used to be able to drink scotch, no problem. People would ask me all the time, like, doesn't it burn? Doesn't it hurt your throat? No, I didn't feel it at all. And I think it's because something was wrong with my tonsils. So now I can't drink scotch anymore without a lot of pain because of the sensitivity. So it's like I removed the tonsils, which needed to be removed because they weren't healthy or good for me, but it took away my superpower of being able to drink scotch and do something that I really enjoyed. So, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe if I took away the anxiety, I wouldn't be this version of myself. So hard to say. Yeah. I do help in many ways that I can, pass along my outlook and my perspective to my girls, the way I try to approach things and kind of the healthy way that I try to do so. I hope that I can pass those things along. I just hope that I can remove some of the roadblocks that I've had or that I've put in, in front of me. Hopefully I can help them either maneuver those or avoid those altogether. So, but we'll see, because maybe then they just have their own roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
You can have all the best intentions in the world, and the children and kids, they grow up and they become a certain way, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. And I don't need to be a parent to know that, because I grew up and I saw what my parents were like and things they tried to avoid, and then things go a certain way. It's just, there's no way to control everything. You already know that. That's repetitive. So, I want to thank Danielle for coming on. This has actually been really informative. There's so many more things I could ask, but let's not wait 9 months. Let's have you come on in maybe a shorter span than 9 months, because it's just too damn interesting. We get on really good topics that are useful. And I think not only for ourselves, but I think there's stuff here that people who've been watching and listening to the podcast could take away something for their own lives, their own families, their own parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this was fun. I like how we just meander.
Yeah.
Kind of, from topic to topic.
That's how I always like to do that. I structure a lot of my other shows a little more with notes and a rundown and stuff, but I've always wanted to just have, because I know what the focus is here, so I just want to see what people are talking about, and you have so many facets, so we can go in a lot of different directions, and that's great. I really, really love talking to you, and you're a friend of ours here. You're always a friend of the show, but you're a friend of mine personally. I love you and Justin. You guys are always the best, and yeah, that's it. I hope I've properly expressed how grateful we are for your time and energy.
Yeah.
Well, I am so happy to be able to join you guys again. And yes, absolutely. Whenever you guys want, I am more than happy to come on. It's great to leave it unstructured because then I don't overthink anything.
Yes.
So that works out really perfectly.
Good. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
And this conversation has reinforced this episode has reinforced the fact that we will not stop doing the show the way we do it. We're going to still do this together because
you guys are great
this is good
together.
This is great. This whole thing's It's just
Thank you,
not every
Danielle.
it's just like Danielle told us. Not everything's gonna be perfect. Not every episode's gonna go our way. Sometimes things don't go as planned. So this is just a reinforcement. So if anything, you saved the show.
You saved the show, Danielle. You were our first guest,
Yay!
and then you saved the show. So this is fantastic.
And I'll tell you, I'll be really honest. I was not in a good mental headspace when I kind of came on here. It's that first thing. But doing this really kind of calmed me down. I was able to, really focus in on what we were doing and talking about. And it's good to do this sort of thing, even if you aren't feeling like you're ready for it or, that it's going to turn out the way you expect.
Yes.
Just go ahead and dive in and do it anyways. So, and that's what I did
Amen.
today. And I'm really glad I did because I'm really glad with how this turned out. So thank
That
you
is
guys.
so true. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. See? That's even
so
better. So many
awesome.
positive takeaways from the show. Thank you to everyone for participating in the show. All your comments on the live stream, we had a lot of them. Thank you. That makes the show better.
Yeah.
And next week, we'll be back on the air. I don't even know when our next show is.
It's next Sunday at 3 p.m. And Kim Willis from the Canadian Mental Health Association is going to be here. So
Awesome.
When's Mikey going to be on?
he's going to be on. I don't know the date. It was going to be Tuesday, but I don't know if we're doing Tuesday. So we have to talk to Mikey, but then it'll be the following week. So in 2
Oh,
weeks.
shit. Sorry, Mikey. We'll fix that.
Yeah, Mikey,
Anyways,
Oh,
we'll talk to you.
yeah. Mikey Ahedo's a great guy, and you'll learn a lot from him as well.
Oh,
So,
yay!
yes, he's going to be on the show. It's
I can't
long
wait.
overdue. Long overdue. So
Yeah,
First Day
I can't
Pod at protonmail.com, First Day Pod on all your social platforms. Give us a 5-star rating and give us a 1-star review if we deserve it, I guess. I mean, I would hope that maybe you'll find something from the show that is a little bit more useful than just calling us cheesy. So thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you, Danielle.
Bye.
You're welcome. Thank you guys.